Do that.
Yeah, it's just so awkward when it's two of us.
I know.
I'll let you make the motion.
All right, in 5, 4.
Welcome to the General Services Public Works Committee meeting. Today is February 10th, and we are in the library community room. With me today is Council Member Wood. We have 3 agenda items before us today. The first one is being presented by Bill Greenwood, our Parks and Recreation Director. Welcome, Bill.
Good afternoon. So a while back, I came to you to get approval as well with the Park and Rec Commission to get a new Atlas vendor, kayak Atlas vendor. You all agreed that it was, so we went out to RFQs, and we had a gentleman by the name of Paul Brown that was the winner, and he'd like to set up for this season. What we had put in the timeline for the agreement, I gave him a larger window. He let me know that start earlier in the season would probably be closer to June. So just so you'll know that it might start a little later with the dam, how it's opening up the water and the water flow. He will put out a little concession booth type ticket booth there right next to our, it would be the ADA ramp and dock. So it would be right there. There's a large landing for him to then also utilize. There's a beach that would be to the upriver side to put his kayaks and boards into. So it's pretty simple, straightforward. It's an agreement that we've had with other vendors, and we have a kayak vendor at Independence Point, so this is the first time for this vendor at this location.
Great, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just a couple of just fine points for Bill to put on this. The Atlas planning, the master plan, this opportunity for our citizens has always been in the works.
Correct.
We would have a kayak launch for people with, we have the disability launch, but now this is the kayak launch. It's just a little bit farther down. Maybe you could talk about where it's located exactly?
Well, there is what we call the ADA swim area, which is a platform that you might see that's more like a landing, and then just downriver from that about maybe 100 feet, 100 and a quarter is the ADA kayak launch. So it would be right there next to the kayak launch. There's a large landing. They would have the booth. So between those two locations, there's a beach area that would be ideal for him to use. And he and I talked about this. He said he would help anybody out, his staff would, if they were having difficulty at the kayak launch. And so he might even put some kayaks around that launch area to come off from there, because there's he could utilize that chute. I don't know if you've ever been in it or worked on it, but you can get in, your kayak goes into a cradle, and then there's handholds, and you let yourself in, and you just pull yourself out. So he has a couple options to use there.
That's great. Hopefully his presence there will make the geese go somewhere else.
Well, and he and I have talked a little bit too. We've had some difficulty with folks that have been misusing the swim area, and we've talked about that at Park and Rec before, and there were a couple articles that were written about it. And I don't want him to get in a confrontation with anyone, but he might help people remind them. I mean, we've got signs, and even when my staff or even myself, and you may have read in the paper where there was a gal that was in a wheelchair that was asking people not to do it, and blew her off as well. So it's
Yeah.
like, without really cracking down and I guess having tickets written, I don't know what kind of control we get, where I'm leaning on people's good nature, but I guess folks don't always have a good nature.
Well, you're being very diplomatic. When you say misuse, they've done actual damage to that.
Yes, they have, absolutely. And what happens is, because they're using it, it becomes, it's like a person in a wheelchair doesn't want to go over there with kids screaming and splashing and having fun. They want to get in and, get off their chair and have a nice time swimming. So it's kind of different when it's occupied with, and treated like a water jungle gym.
Right, exactly right. Great.
Any further questions?
I'm prepared to make a motion. Madam Chair, I motion to recommend that council approve an agreement with Paul Brown, AKA Kayak CDA LLC, to provide a passive water sport rentals at Atlas Mill Park for a term of 5 years.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Bill. Welcome, Dan.
Hello.
On to item number 2 and 3, we have Adam, our recreation superintendent, with us today. Welcome, Adam.
Good afternoon. So we've got a couple of agreements, or one MOU and one agreement, I guess. We'll go to the Junior Tackle Association agreement first. In that staff report, it indicates we've in the past had an agreement with Junior Tackle to use Persons Field. That agreement expired some time ago, and one of the things that Bill's tasked me with is trying to bring some of these up to date. So that's really what we're doing here. They've had a separate lease for the pole building that they use out there, and so we're bringing everything in line to include the pole building and their field use under one agreement and one fee. And so it indicates that in this agreement, we're going to do a 5-year agreement starting at $2,000 a year, 5% increase each year thereafter, and that fee includes the use of the fields and the building. And then they are also on the hook to pay their utility costs for that building because they're the only ones that use it. So pretty straightforward, and they've been a good partner of ours. Just again, want to bring this all up to date so that we're, have a locked in agreement for field use for them. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Junior Tackle is a fabulous organization. Do you, off the top of your head, know how many students they're serving?
I don't. When we met with Bob Fitzgerald, I think he's their president. I know that they're growing, but yeah, he didn't give us an indication of total numbers of kids. But
Okay.
they spread out all over town. Pretty much every neighborhood park that we have, any open green space, they've got teams at. So
That's great
yeah,
for
so
kids.
a good organization to partner with for sure.
And is a 5-year agreement what we've done with them in the past?
The last one, now again, has expired quite some time ago. I think was just for 2 years.
Okay.
So most of the ones, again, we're going with some of the other ones that we've brought forward. Trying to do all of these very similar with all the other user groups to go with 5 years. That gives them a little bit more peace of mind on locking down that field use, and then makes most of our stuff
Okay,
pretty seamless. So
thank you.
And I just have one question. Have they always paid their utilities, or is that in addition to?
yes,
They have, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, then I will make a motion to recommend City Council approve as updated agreement and football lease with Coeur d'Alene Junior Tackle Football Association for use of Persons Field.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. And item number 3, in memorandum of understanding for Inland Northwest Pickleball Club.
Yes. So again, another user group that we've had a relationship with for quite some time, group that's growing dramatically in the community. I think they went, when we met with their president, they've gone from 320 members to over 500 in the last couple of years. And they run an annual tournament out at Cherry Hill that they incur some fees with, but they also offer us some services. They do some adult lessons that we do spring and summer on the rec side of things. So this MOU is doesn't have any fees specifically attached to it, that they'll pay all their applicable tournament fees, and then that we would reserve the right to accept any services, donations, things like that, in lieu of offsetting their tournament fees. So things like those lessons, a lot of times they pressure wash the courts and do some maintenance out there at Cherry Hill, which is beneficial because then we don't have to send staff out there to take care of that stuff. So, yeah, pretty straightforward. And again, doing another 5-year agreement just to keep it in line with everything else.
Madam Chair? Thank you. Adam, did anything change in this 5-year agreement from the last one?
We've not actually ever really had an actual agreement with them.
Oh, okay.
It's just been, so when they've done the lessons in the past, we've done just like the yearly contract that says we'll pay you this much money, you know, per participant, or we've done 80-20 splits where we keep 20% for administrative costs, they get 80% of the proceeds. So we do all the registration. That's how we've operated with them before, and then they always would just fill out the facility use permit for their tournament.
I
And
see.
then, you know, negotiate those fees based on what they've, you know, brought to the table as far as maintenance stuff, pressure washing, those kinds of things. So, this was something that they had actually, we wanted to do, and they kind of pushed for having an actual agreement that basically gave them, again, that lockdown use of Cherry Hill so that they're not gonna get bumped out for that tournament that they hold every year.
And Randy, did you write this MOU?
I did not.
But you've
I have
reviewed it?
reviewed it, yeah.
Okay, and you're comfortable?
I am, yes.
Great.
Well, yeah, actually, just this morning, I happened to see in the Statesman that City of Boise is being sued by some homeowners that are claiming noise problem with the pickleball court. And as I looked into it, you know, and in this case, it was like some tennis courts converted, but they talked about, you know, very distinct, different noise with pickleball balls, I guess, than tennis balls. And their own recommendation is, you know, then don't have anything within 250 feet of a residence. And as I was just in my head kind of thinking, you know, down by Memorial, you know, and we've got one where we put a row in along, you know, with Ignite, but are you aware of any of that, or how close are our courts? Okay.
Yeah, I've heard the issue about because it's, you know,
Well, we did recently pass that whole new noise abatement, so we're,
so let's take the separate courts. Cherry Hill, we're well beyond that 250
Yeah,
foot range. Memorial Field, for example, the new homes that we worked with Ignite on that built that new row
Right.
there, we had some property swaps, if you recall. So all those folks were well aware of what they were building, where they were building, and they were next to a skate park. So everybody was in the know, and I haven't had any real complaints. Cherry Hill, for example, I don't plan to put lights out there. So in the evening time is usually when would be more of an irritation.
Right,
I do have one neighbor who lets me know quite regularly when the BMX is running that they were being
Sure.
too loud. And
Sure.
some of that has to do with air pressure and wind. Sometimes sound can really travel and sometimes not so much. So
yeah. Well, I
I don't
forgot
believe it
about
will be
the,
an issue. In fact, they've been playing there for some time before they paid for the conversion of those courts. And I never received calls about the pickleball noise.
I forgot about the famous Woody skateboard park. That'd be way more noisy, so.
Yeah, it
Okay,
would be.
well, just
Yeah,
so that we're aware, okay.
Yep.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to recommend that council approve a memorandum of understanding with the Inland Northwest Pickleball Club for the use of Cherry Hill Park for their annual tournament.
Second,
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to adjourn.
second,
All those in favor?
aye,
Aye.
Motion carries.
man, didn't
Wow.
even get time to take my coat off, but oh,
And Juanita, I think all on the consent calendar.
yeah.